Kia ora, you're with At a Loss, a podcast about living fully with grief, about living, really living, when death has made its presence felt. Bit of a landmark episode today. Our very first Reverend, and here you are, Reverend Mua Strickson-Pua, in top-to-toe ecclesiastical green.
Oh, green has got to be the colour, my brother.
I love it.
Creativity, new beginnings.
Well, and for you, there's a slight political leaning, isn't there?
Oh, there is, but I was trying to be polite. Presbyterians are very subtle.
And right, and yet you've managed to stay a Presbyterian, because subtlety is not really your strong point, I would have thought.
I blame the kilt and the lover.
Is that your whakapapa, is it?
Aye.
Isn't that an okai?
It is.
Malo Rev Talofa Lava. So, you and your wife Linda, about 30 years of ministry now?
We've done 30 years of ministry, and in quite a radical way in terms of that instead of being parish-based ministry, it's been community outside the church. And so it's been a challenging time of how do we action the theological training that we've been given and at the same time be practical about the aroha, the alofa, the in communion, in community, and allowing people to get on with their journeys, their malanga, and the issues that's important to them, their families and their communities.
Malanga?
Journey.
Thank you. Like that. Does it give the inference of an A to B? Is malanga like A to B, or is it a more circuitous? Is there an inference around it?
The inference generally tends to be depending on your journey. There's storms, there's calm weather, there's moments where it's obvious, there's times where you're going to go to a certain island, and from there you've been told, no, you've got to go back. There's something back over there. And then from there, get told again when you get back over there, hey, we think you should be over at Island Z.
You are telling the malanga of my life, Rev.
I think it's all of us, my brother. And so, hence that very why linear lines are not popular with Pacificans. We're a people that are all over. And the other way I approach it is the theology of comedy. It is that the reason why we laugh loud is because we want to know we're not alone. And the reason why we laugh long is because united, the laughter gets better.
It's not always laughter, though. I know that recently you have officiated at the funerals of some suicides of mutual friends of ours.
Yes.
And I wonder in that 30 years, how many grieving whānau, ainga groups, how many would you have been of service to, had to come into relationship with?
Jeepers, that's a really good question. We've been blessed with that because we're outside. That means that we've been called in to either help a whānau, a community, to get access to a church. A church, from Linda and my perspective, is really a unique experience because we have been doing funerals in pubs, in gardens, in backyards, in sports clubs, in areas and places that have specific meaning to the loved one that has passed away.
You're sitting in front of me in your full priestly garb, right? There's no doubt about what your gig is, right?
Yep.
You're in your work clothes.
Yep.
And you've got the dog collar on. What's the proper name for that, by the way, the dog collar? What's it called?
Oh, that's a good question.
You've forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Oh, worse. All I know is that if you run out of dog collars, you go cut up a granola and you're squeaky clean again.
Funerals in a pub. No, you can't do that dressed like this. You cannot take priestly garments into a pub to do a funeral.
I think we can because our loved ones are there. if that's their place, a sense of belonging, a sense of memory, a sense of gathering to farewell a loved one. And so my job, or I see it as my role, is to awhi, to tautoko, to do a service that has meaning for the whānau, the community that gathers. And so I find with pubs a much more resilient, a much more raw, a much more real setting. And it also is an opportunity to interface with the next generation coming through about how can we look after ourselves better? How can we support each other better? How can we learn from the passing of their beloved? And what are the lessons that we can take from this? And also, I find too that it's also about facilitating a process with the whānau, with the family, that meets their expectations, with their key players or leaders, and also in terms of hearing, also in terms of affirming, and really giving a good send-off. And when I say a good send-off, I'm talking about the awesome tears, about the great laughter, about the sadness, going through all those emotional notes of mixed emotions, from anger, from being able to let it off safely, and also for us as a whānau to identify the follow-ups. Just because we had the service on Tuesday, as we know, doesn't mean that it just stopped on Tuesday. No, it's about an opportunity to put on our radar, take our leadership role. And when I say leadership, I'm talking about the word in English is leadership, but the tikanga I'm talking about is servant leaders. It's about us keeping an eye out to see which young ones or which elders need to have a visit, need to be okay when we drop over, just to make sure, that this hasn't totally washed them out emotionally, spiritually, and culturally. It's about an awareness, tuning in, because we've been blessed that we come from a people that have understood that death is a part of life.
Mua?
Yes.
I want to check in on your energy for a moment. There's a bit of heat behind these words for you. When you're talking to me, there's almost an anger that is present in this energy with you. Why? You've just given me a thumbs up. Is there anger underneath this for you?
I think it's a disappointment with the church, recognizing or coming to grips with, how do we serve the community outside? How do we become an interactive, engaging church that must learn how to let people make their own decisions, to let the society carry on?
So you've remained in the church,
Aye.
right? How long ago did you? When were you ordained? How long ago was that?
30 years ago.
30 years ago, right? And I know, because we've known each other a long time, that there have been times when you have been comparatively comfortable in your walk with the church and your ministry within the fold, and other times when I know that you have been, it's almost time for divorce.
Yes.
Right? You've been on those.
Yep.
And yet you've held it together. So I'm interested
Yep.
in that you have been able to bring the church and all that brings as a generational glue or connector, as an intercultural, cross-cultural connector too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to talk about that for just a moment. And thank you for the energy and the vibrancy that you're bringing in this. You're Samoan and Scots. Do you work exclusively within that Samoan community? Like I was chatting to a mate of mine yesterday, and she's like going, "Oh, you got the rap and Rev coming on, So you've got your street poetry, your performance poetry, your published poetry, your social activism. But in your ministry, how much is it exclusively within the Samoan community?"
I think we've been brought up, one of the quick ways to answer it is, when I was growing up, it was to be a Samoan when I was a baby. Then, as I started growing up in the school system, it was to be New Zealand born. Then it was to be New Zealand born Samoan. Then it was to become Aotearoa Samoan. Then it was to become Ngāti Hāmoa. And as you see the progression, it becomes obvious to me that I have enjoyed the blessing of the protest movement, Springbok Tour, Waitangi. I have engaged with marrying a crazy Pākehā woman who on our first date said, we're going down to the marae to do te reo Māori. And my response was terrible. I said, with those Maoris, just terrible. I cringe, I'm embarrassed. I'm so lucky to be blessed to be married to a Ngāti Pākehā who loves being called Ngāti Pākehā, who understands what that means, but is also proud of her English heritage, and so she doesn't just, go, oh, let the Samoan do his thing. No, it is about the dreams that ancestors brought to this awesome island of Aotearoa. It is about the kotahitanga, the unity, and how we begin to resolve the issues of who we are, what we wish to contribute, and what we celebrate about the not uniformity in a controlling way, but the commonality of what it is that we do share, and then what is it that we're going to share that's new and will be just amazing to the input of our development as a nation. And so when we look at death and grieving, we're looking at amazing, powerful contributions to the global village of the humanity of families about how we can assist, how we can heal, how we can affirm people.
Ngāti Hāmoa,
Ai.
Ngāti Pākehā, right, tangata whenua. Look, even a couple of Tongan friends of mine talk about you quite politely behind your back.
Oh, I tell you, I love Tonga because my famous line I use on the Tongans is, without Tongans, there would be no honest Samoans. Now, Timothy's laughing away, people, so trust me. The Tongans in the audience, malo.
When you look at those cultures that you work comfortably across and live with, and sometimes uncomfortably across, I'd imagine, right? Death and grief you just talked about. Do you need to approach them very differently when you're in your role of pastoral care? Around that?
Oh yeah, I think you've hit it. It's the biggie. It's the biggie of our children are intergenerational. Our children have so many other ways of looking at the world, the technology. But I just recently took a group of high at-risk young people, and I was just saying to them, you know what? You might come from the smallest islands, but your islands is in the biggest ocean in the world. And the other thing you need to be aware of, young people, if we've been traveling to South America and going to Africa, we've been traveling, our ancestors. Do you not think your ancestors have already experienced knowing how to live in new countries, different cultures, new languages, and being able to adapt and so be those amazing mariners who for thousands of years before our Pākehā side even got outside of Mediterranean to be in the largest ocean. And so when we look at how do we handle, and with the new statistics, I'm one of those really geeky Presbyterians, Timothy, I confess. I look at the census figures, the indications in my classrooms that I work in with young people are mixed. And so it's obvious to us, mixed is not a new thing in the last 50 years. For the statisticians, it's new. Yet historically, if our people have been traveling thousands of years across the ocean, then it's obvious we've always had mixed. And so therefore, there is an awareness that a humanity that has understood some way of meaning, some way of being able to express themselves, some way of being able to tell their stories in a way that allows others or doesn't allow others to be part of their kingdom, of their nation, of their political setting, we begin to see and emerge an amazing picture of choices, decisions. How do we wish to engage or not to engage?
So when you're walking into these mixed cultural settings, and I would imagine that you would have whānau or community and groupings where you have buried, burnt, officiated over the farewells and the celebrations of many people within that one whānau group or social gathering. But then others, you walk in and they don't know you at all. You don't know them at all, and you don't know what you're walking into. How do you approach those situations? Like walking into grief, right, and loss. What are you expecting, or what's the range of things that you have to be ready for?
Yep. I'm thinking tūhoi, I'm thinking down the line, I'm thinking Samoa minister going down to say farewell to a friend from tūhoi, and then being told that I'll be taking the service on the marae and I'm not even Māori.
That actually sounds scary.
Oh, mate, I was like, I was taken back. And then on top of that, our delineation. That's what I like about tūhoi. Tūhoi are really clear. Man, are they clear.
What's a delineation?
The lines of where you can and cannot be. And so I did, we were really clear about our duties, our services to the whānau, to the tribe, and to the other tribes and nations that were present. And then in that process, you're also trying to ask the hard questions of the iwi, of the people. What happened? Because there was a very sad story in this particular case. And so it was that fine line of how do we handle a request from the group that are the leaders of this group, and yet look at the whānau, and the whānau is distraught that a family member had a rather tragic ending. And so you walk a fine line between, and I mean, the example that really stood out for me had to be, when we went into the urupa, tūhoi were really clear about that the urupa would be there.
Their kawa.
Aye.
You stop at the gate.
Exactly.
Okay, drop to the back.
Oh, yeah. So you understand that,
that.
As a Ngāti Hāmoa, I was so grateful, not offended, I understood. And then just the shock of, standing at the fence, to show that respect back to tūhoi. And then next minute, oh my gosh, when they turned around and went, "Oi, Samoa, get in here." And I went, "What?" And they went, "You're here, my brother. We appreciate."
That anger, and we live in a nation that has a couple of filthy addictions: child abuse and suicide.
Yeah.
Right? So that anger is present, and the confusion and the rage is present, right?
Yeah.
When you are dealing with people in grief, you walk into all sorts of dysfunction.
Yep.
You also walk into all sorts of times when people do not have that energy to hold themselves. Yeah. And I'm really aware that when someone close to me, or even someone that I might just work with, or the neighbour down the street I chat to occasionally, they lose someone, I know it's hurt, and I don't even know how to approach it.
Yeah.
You're expert at this stuff. You've been doing it a long time. Your dad did it.
I know. You're very kind. I am humbled with that lovely, acknowledgement of our father, our intergenerational tupulanga connections. I come from a line of orators and healers. I come from a line of lay preachers. And so it's a great honour, when we do the mahi, when we do the interface. Walking into those homes of high risk walking into those homes of despair, walking into those homes of powerlessness, poverty. It's those moments that you got to have a handle, and you've got to bring our people through. You've got to walk the talk. But at the same time, Timothy, you're so right. We're also showing our people we're human, that we don't always have all the answers or the right answers. We don't always have, but what we have is a heart for the people. What we have is ways of connecting our people to where to go get help, who to go see, who to bring into the picture.
And more. What's choking you up right now?
I think in the 30 years that we've been doing our work, suicide has been it's terrible when you think. I've been brought out as a dinosaur for a lot of the youth work things in the last 6 months.
How old are you now?
63.
Well, you're definitely a triceratops, aren't you? No doubt
Yeah,
about that.
definitely.
Right. So you've been brought out into this place,
Yeah.
right? And it causes you pain.
Yep, it's
What's the pain it brings you? You've been around, man. You've seen some things, right?
Yep.
What still hurts?
What still hurts is that we're allowing people to suffer. We're allowing injustice. We're allowing families to feel unwanted, unloved, unsupported. We're allowing young people to go through a system to be scarred. We're allowing systemic racial discrimination, historical histories of injustice. And so as a practitioner, as a person that works in that field, I take it personal. I respond because I am mindful that servant leaders are meant to stand up. Awhi tautoko, to affirm our people. And so, with the funerals that we've done, it's been it's about how do we break that cycle down.
Is there an answer?
I think there are a multiplicity of answers, from social policy to individuals.
Okay, so let me bring you back then to this moment of being with you. Thank you we've gone from anger to tears of anger and just of sheer mamai and podi and right, of just grief, right?
Aye.
I am thinking about your wife and your moko, right? And you going off and you deliberately putting yourself into these places that hurt.
Yeah.
And you go home and they know you're coming home. Yeah. And you take that home.
Yes.
That doesn't sound good.
Oh, that's why Linda loved when she went over your questions. Yeah, mate. So I thought, boy, I'm not going to go see Timothy Giles and not do my homework, And then I could hear all the Tongans going, oh. And so Linda said to tell you, you are so right. We need to be aware of what we're taking home. We need to fine-tune those mechanisms, support mechanisms, also to how do we include or don't include. One of the things that Linda always makes sure when I'm at home is, oi, you're not looking good. Get out there. Here's your running shoes. You go do 10 Ks and then you can come home and I'll feed you. And then the grandkids are awesome. The grandkids, for the last 10 years, we're taught that death is a part of life. So for 10 years, well, more than 10 years, my grandchildren know which part of the Bible readings, which part of the prayers they're doing in the tangi for me, and what their roles will be, and how to support their parents.
So there's a team aspect about this.
Oh, yes.
And there's roles and... Okay, I get it. So out in some of the roles, publicly, you take this lead view. And I hear your servant leadership. But you will also step forward to the front. At home, it's like, get out the door and don't come back till you've knocked out your run.
Aye.
Right? Papa, I got this bit.
Yep.
Yeah? We've only got 5 minutes. left in this conversation. I was interested in talking to you about the death experiences that you've seen. But I'm not going to go to that conversation right now. What I want to go to is, are you ready for your death? You have this team around you.
Yep.
When you deal with death, the sudden
Yep.
ones, the ones that we knew were coming for some time, it is present in your life and present then in your family conversation, I would imagine,
Yes.
right? Whether there's talanoa around this, right? How do you view your death? Are you ready?
I think some people envisage death in so many different levels. I think this is really important. It's taken me 60 years to figure out what the old people are saying. It's taken me 60 years to figure out, in a small, humble way, of how we view our own coming to that closure. And also, how do we then make sure that the others around us are safe? Also, how they're doing their processing of what is coming, and also in terms of how to assist with how they wish to define or redefine those experiences called death, life, and where to.
The way that you are preparing for your own death is by preparing those around you.
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you to summarise in a couple of minutes, but
Yep.
first of all, I just want to ask you something as you're here in your priestly garbs, and I love the green, Heaven? Really? I'm really Mua? I mean, like, I've never seen you play a harp. Are you literally going to go up and there's St. Peter's gates and you'll be in there with all the other good people? Is that what you're believing in, and is that how you face death? Because you're going to be one of the chosen few living a life of bliss in heaven.
Oh, I wish. My response is, and I was just talking to that other beautiful reverend over there, and that is that quantum mechanics is really popular amongst Presbyterian ministers. Physics, astrophysics. I love whether it's the airy-fairy, it's the harp, pull it up and go to the left, take the pink cloud on the furthest to the left. To the physicist who says, you will return to be that ion back in the universe. And once again, life starts again. And so whether we go to the mythy stuff over there or the scientific rationale over there, I still like that we've still got a circular line of journeys to redefine how we want to see that. And so I think exciting times. I mean...
Death?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
But I hope I'm brave when it comes.
Do you really need to be brave, mate? I mean, seriously, bro, like, Oh, man, there's another conversation.
Isn't it?
I would like to conclude with you having a minute to just summarise, for someone who has listened to this conversation with you, what would you like them to take away?
Okay. I'm going to go back to the fundamentals. Samoan fundamentalism here, and that is that you are precious, that you are important part of the universe. You have a magic. You have humanity. You have something special. You need to know that you're loved. You need to know we need you. You need to know grieving is painful, but that we got to go through it, and that you don't have to go through it by yourself. You need to know too that grief is also a process that will make you stronger, and that, please, there's good people around if you need them. But, bottom line is you are precious. You are loved.
Mua, thank you for being one of the good people around me in my life over many years now. I love your rage. I love your righteous indignation. I love your inappropriate and deliberate humour. And I love your courage. Thank you for your company.
Oh, Lord.
And your counsel.